All right, guys. I think we're about ready to do this thing. How's everybody today? You're good. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. Let's try that again. How's everybody doing today? All right, nice. Well, welcome out, guys. Welcome to Pinots. I'm glad y'all decided to join me today. And also, welcome to all our friends at home. I don't know if you guys noticed, we got a camera back there. And we got a bunch of new friends joining us, painting along from home. So, welcome to you guys, too. I'm glad y'all made it out today. Now, before I get started, I usually like to ask, is anybody in here brand new, never been here before, first time tonight? Wow, okay, like half of us, I like that. That means I will be the best instructor you guys have had, so that's good for me. I guess since so many of us are new in here tonight, let me go ahead and also ask, is anybody in here right now, like, just terrified of painting? Nobody. Stalwart bunch. Okay. Yeah, a couple? Okay, all right. Well, the good news is, guys, if you are terrified, you've got a great bartender over there, and her name's Kylie. Everybody want to say hi to Kylie over there? Now, Kylie has all the finest liquid courage back there for you guys, should you need a little bit of it. And guys, if you're painting along at home, please feel free to grab yourself a beverage and join us. It definitely helps the process here to be a little bit loose, right? So, all right. So anyway, oh, and while I'm doing introductions, guys, my name is Maddie. You can call me Matt or Matthew or Art, Zara, whatever. I'm pretty easy. And I'm here to walk you guys through the painting tonight. So I'm going to be here if you need art help or if you need moral support or whatever. Guys, just put up a hand and I will come rushing to your aid. All right. And, if you're having more of a beverage related problem and you don't feel like visiting Kylie at the bar back there, you can give her the old peace sign and she's been classically conditioned to bring you booze when she sees that. And if at any point you're just feeling overwhelmed with the process here, just give us one of these and both of us will come running and we'll hold your hand, we'll get you through it, okay? Not that anybody's gonna have that problem tonight, I promise, because tonight's painting is deceptively easier than it looks. And if you don't know already, the painting we're doing tonight is this guy up here on the monitor. It's called Moonrise Lake. Does that look intimidating to anybody? Yeah. Well, don't sweat it, guys. We're going to baby step our way through the whole process. I'm going to be here for you. Don't worry about it. Okay, so let's, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about our equipment that we have in front of us. Now, if you take a look to your right, you should notice a couple of brushes sitting there. Now, we're just going to call those the big brush and the little brush, right? Yeah. Let me know if I'm losing anybody. Now, when you're not using these, like now, go ahead and place them in your cup of water. And when you're not using those brushes, it's a good idea for them to kind of live in that cup of water. That'll keep the paint from drying and the bristles, keep them easy to work with. It will also kind of remind you which cup not to drink out of as we're painting along here. So guys, you have some water, you have some paper towels. Guys, if you need some extra paper towels, there are some at the front and end of each table. You can just ask your buddy to pass them down to you. And then lastly, if you take a look underneath your easel, you should notice a couple of paper plates down there. Now, if you take a look inside, you should notice an empty paper plate. That's going to be our mixing tray for mixing custom colors. And then you'll notice your color palette with all the paint and all the colors that you're going to need to paint this painting the way you see it, right? Now, that said, guys, if you don't just love everything about this painting, guys, if you want to get creative with your colors, or if you just want to go rogue and do your own thing, guys, you're encouraged to do all of that, right? So if you would like different colors or you need a little bit more paint and you happen to be in the studio, guys, let me know. We got a whole paint cart full of colors over here. I can get you guys whatever you want. If there's a color you want that you don't see, just let me know and I can mix it up for you, okay? All right, I think that about brings us up to speed. You guys ready to do this? Nice, all right. How about you guys at home? Y'all ready to do this? Okay, great. I'm guessing lots of yeses. Okay, good. By the way, guys, Zach over here is going to be our assistant tonight. He's mostly here to kind of help interface with the folks at home, but you definitely want to make friends with him if you haven't already. Okay, let's go ahead and do this thing. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning, guys, if you are at home viewing this class, there are going to be some weird moments where the audio of me is going to cut out and it's going to seem like you've lost audio. that's going to be kind of the opportunity for you to turn up the music at home and enjoy yourself and just do some painting, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Now, guys, we're going to paint this wonderful painting up here. Again, Moonrise Lake. It's one of my favorite new paintings that we're doing here. It's a lot easier than it looks. And the first thing we're going to do is draw in the moon, right? Now, if the thought of drawing in a nice, perfect round moon freaks you out a little bit, yeah, you'll probably notice that your mixing tray is suspiciously similar in size to the moon up there on the master, right? So I would encourage you, if you're not comfortable drawing a moon, to just pull out your mixing tray and then go ahead and pull out your big brush as well. Oh no, we'll fix you guys up. Give us just a second on that. So guys, go ahead and grab out your big brush, grab out your mixing tray, and grab a little bit of this kind of hot pink, this bright neon pink paint that you've got here. And guys, the placement of the moon on your canvas, it's not super critical where you put it. What I would say is you probably want to leave yourself at least 4 fingers or maybe even a hand's width worth of space up at the very top of the canvas, right? And then just set it kind of roughly in the middle, and then just come in here with your big brush and just put a big bunch of pink right around that plate. There we go. Just brush that around and lift your plate up. Guys, if you have like a really wonky edge there where it's like really jagged and broken looking because of the like little crimped edge of the plate, don't sweat it. We will have an opportunity to come back later and tighten that up whenever we actually paint our moon in. Now, I should warn you before we keep moving here that for the first couple of steps in this painting, we're going to be moving a little bit quickly through them, right? And that's because we don't want to give this paint a lot of time to get dry on us, or you know, the colors aren't going to blend with each other as we work our way through all of our sky colors, right? So what we're going to do for starters, we're going to continue working with that bright pink paint. We're going to kind of expand out the color of our sky a little bit. And really what I'm going to do is, you know, if you look up at the master, it looks like, you know, there's a little bit of a gradient working up into the sky. It's kind of more pink down towards the bottom, and then it gets a little purple and blue and stuff as it rises up towards the top of the canvas. So essentially what I'm going to do, guys, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to widen out that little bit of pink around my moon. I'm going to widen it out just a little bit. And then on the sides, I'm going to kind of just bring this pink pretty much all the way off the edge of the canvas, right? Sorry, guys, I know it's kind of hard to see through me over here. There we go. And then down here on the bottom of your moon, it really doesn't matter how much pink you end up having, because we're going to end up painting over it and adding other colors down here in the bottom. So I'm just going to bring this pink kind of down just a little bit below the bottom edge of my moon, right? There we go. So again, guys, I'll give you a minute to work on that. But like I said, we are going to be moving a little bit quickly through these first couple of steps. Hey guys, now once you've got a little bit of that pink on there, we're going to keep on moving. Now guys, if you rinsed your brush, great. If you didn't, also great. It's fine to have a little bit of pink in the brush because it's going to aid with the mixing, with the blending, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take our brush, and again, it's okay to have a little bit of pink in the brush. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a little bit of pink on my brush, and then at the same time, I'm going to come over here and get a little bit of blue on my brush as well. So I've got pink and blue on here together. And guys, I'm just going to kind of brush these on here, and hopefully they're going to blend together a little bit and create kind of some, you know, purple tones as they start to blend with each other, right? And guys, I'm just using kind of random brush strokes. I'm not like, you know, trying to, there's no like technique I'm using here. I'm just kind of slopping this paint around, just using a random brush strokes here and just kind of smushing that paint around, right? There we go. And guys, I'm going to bring this up into my sky, just, I don't know, however far you want to. You can see I'm starting to bring it down along the edge of my moon here a little bit. And I'm going to try to have that color come down maybe about halfway down the side of my moon or so. But again, that's not a hard and fast make it or break it measurement or anything. I'm just kind of making that up. There we go. And I'm going to leave a little bit of space up at the very top. So I'm not going to carry this yellow and blue mixture all the way to the top. I'm going to leave, I don't know, you can see I've got maybe like 2 or 3 fingers worth of space up here at the top that I'm just going to leave plain for right now. Mention another little thing here real quick. While you're working with these colors, you're probably getting some nice blending going. But these colors, they tend to be a little bit transparent. You've probably noticed you can kind of see through them just a little bit. And there's a little trick you can do that will add some body to the color, but it will also add kind of an extra layer of detail in there. It'll give you some like little choppy, almost cloudy looking bits of color, just a little bit of extra variety in the texture of your color. And what that is, guys, is while you're working, I've still got pink and blue in my brush. I'm making all these purple colors. I'm just gonna reach over here and get just the tiniest little touch of white, just the tiniest little bit, right? So I'm just gonna get a tiny little touch of white. And then I'm going to come in here and sort of just start to smush a little bit of white into my color here. And this does a lot of nice things. Again, it adds a little bit of extra, kind of like an extra layer of texture into your color. It can kind of make some little sort of cloudy shapes in your color, but also it kind of smooths the blending out a little bit. That white tends to pick up all the colors that are there, and it can really smooth out some of your blending as well. Also adds a little bit of body to the color. So again, guys, you can kind of add as much or as little of that as you would like in there. All right, guys, looks like everybody's kind of getting a feel for it. So just, smush those colors around until they kind of do what you want them to do. And we're going to continue up into our sky. We're going to fill the remainder of our canvas up here. And guys, at the very top of the canvas, we're just going to use blue. Now that said, you can still pepper a little bit of white in there as you like, right? So I'm going to get some blue. I'm going to come up here and start, again, blending it into those colors. I'm just smushing that blue into that purple. Letting those colors kind of mix and mingle and do their thing, right? And then, occasionally, just again, to kind of get a little bit of extra texture and a little bit of body in there, I might grab just a little bit of white and kind of smush a little bit of white into there as well. All right. And just carry that blue or blue and white up until you've filled in what's left of the top of your canvas. All right, guys. Now there's no rush on your sky. If you're still working, keep on working. But we are going to add one more little touch of color into the very top of the sky. We're going to add just a little hint of some green up there, right? Now the good thing is you can kind of just mix the green right into the blue that you've already got on there. And if you look up at the master there, you can see it's very, very subtle. It's just the tiniest little touch of green just right in the upper corners of the canvas. So I'm just going to get a little touch of green on my brush. And I'm just going to come up here and brush a tiny little bit just right into the upper corners. You know, just kind of smush it in there again. And if you brush a little bit of green up there and you wish it were a little bit more green, if you wish it were just a little bit brighter, adding the tiniest little touch of white in there will kind of bring that green out a little bit. That said, I actually feel pretty good about how my green looks, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. All right. Now, I don't want to overload you guys with stuff here, but that's a pretty simple little step. So once you've got that in there, the next thing we're going to do is come down here and start adding some color into what's going to be the water part of our painting. So once you're ready for that, go ahead and just give your brush a quick rinse, right? Just take your big brush and just tap it down in the bottom of your cup of water, you know, swish it around a little bit so it shakes out a little bit of that paint and dry it off. And we're going to move down into the water. And we're going to add our water a little bit differently than we did. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with words today. We're going to do our water a little bit differently than we did our sky. Rather than just doing kind of random brush strokes, down here in the water, we want to add lots of horizontal brush strokes, right? And lots of horizontal brush strokes are going to start to build this nice glassy surface texture of our water. So guys, go ahead and we're going to start with just a little bit of pink. But guys, I would encourage you to get a little bit of pink on your brush, and then at the same time, get a little bit of white on your brush. So a little bit of pink, a little bit of white, and then come down here, just kind of right at the bottom of your moon, and just start brushing a little bit of pink and white right across the canvas. There we go. And guys, you want to leave this a little bit streaky. You know, you don't want to over blend these colors where it all just becomes one shade of light pink. You want to see these like little streaks of white in there and little streaks of pink, right? Now, as you start working your way down, filling up the bottom of your canvas, we're going to want to leave a big gap right in the middle, which is going to be kind of the reflection of our moon. So we're going to leave like the middle third of our canvas just white. So I'm going to continue working my way down with a little bit of pink and white, but now I'm just kind of brushing it in on the sides, right? Leaving a lot of white in the middle. There we go. And again, guys, I don't want to overload you with too many steps here, but as you start working your way down here, we can start adding some blue into our mixture to make this water get a little bit darker, right? So as you start working your way down, you know, continue using a little bit of pink and a little bit of white, but also reach over here and get a little bit of blue in your mixture so that you start getting some purple tones showing up down here in the bottom. And then you can carry that all the way down to the bottom of the canvas. Guys, now, once again, it kind of helps us if we jump in here with our next step before that paint has a lot of chance to get dry on us. So what we're gonna wanna do is add some white right into that gap that we left in the middle. So I would encourage you guys to give your brush a quick rinse though, because we don't want the white gap in the middle to end up turning really pink or blue on us. So rinse out your brush and dry it off, and then grab up a little bit of white paint. And again, guys, still using, lots of little horizontal brush strokes. Just come here and start to brush a little bit of white into the middle. And guys, I know you probably kind of figured it out when you're working on the edges, but to get that real like choppy kind of broken edge there, the way you get that is to kind of like, it's like a flick of the wrist. You kind of just want to gently lift your brush off the canvas as you're making those brush strokes, right? So take a little bit of white and kind of just on the edges, just lift your brush right off the canvas as you're making those little brush strokes. And that'll give you those nice little broken brush strokes on the edges there. There you go. Now guys, hopefully your paint that you put in there on the edges is still a little bit wet, and you should get a little bit blending into some of your white as you're working here. And that's great. That's what we want to happen. And if you wanted to just add a little extra flavor in there, if you wish you had a little bit of, pink kind of in the middle, you can just, streak a little bit of pink in there. But I think we probably want to try to keep this center part of the canvas mostly white. All right, guys, let me ask you, how's everybody feeling so far? So far, so good? Folks at home, everybody feeling good? I gotta say, I don't love seeing myself on the monitor over here. Like I can convince myself that I'm really handsome and charming when I can't actually see myself. So, all right, looks like everybody's doing pretty good on that. Now, guys, there's one more little step I think I want to give you guys before we think about taking a break here. And well, maybe a couple of steps. I tell you what, the next thing we're going to want to do is start to add some stars into our sky, right? And there's a couple of methods to do this. The first method I'm going to show you is my favorite because it is the messy one. Yeah, we are going to fling some paint here, right? Now, guys, if you're not comfortable flinging paint, particularly if you're at home on your dining room table or whatever, if you're not comfortable flinging paint, don't worry. I have another method I can show you guys that does not require any paint flinging, right? But if you're like me and you love making a mess and you love flinging paint, I'm going to show you how to do it. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a way that is going to mitigate collateral damage, right? So you're not like flinging paint in your neighbor's eyes the whole time. Okay, so once you guys are ready for this, go ahead, take your big brush, give it a good rinse, just tap it down in that cup and dry it off and pull out your mixing tray, right? There you go. Now what you want to do, guys, once you get a clean, dry, big brush, you just need the littlest bit of white paint. So I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush into the white paint. You don't need much at all. And then just kind of scrape that off over there on your mixing tray. Now, once you have that little bit of white paint, we're going to make a wash out of that. And, wash is just a fancy art word that means we're going to add a bunch of water to it, right? So what you want to do, guys, is take your big brush, jab it down in your cup of water, and in fact, tap it on the bottom of the cup. So it shakes out the excess paint and it absorbs as much water as it can hold, right? Now take that brush full of paint and stir it into that little touch of white paint. And guys, it's okay that your water's gross. It's okay that your water's purple or blue or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It will kind of change the appearance of your paint color a little bit. it's still gonna look white at the end of the painting, I promise. Now, guys, this should be real soupy, right? Like if I were to turn this up to show it to you guys, it just runs right off on the floor, right? So if it's not sloshing around on your tray, you need more water in there, okay? Now, once you think you've got a pretty good soupy mix of white paint here, guys, please, 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 this is important. Do a test flick on the paper towel or the table or your neighbor or something. Do not go flinging this right on your canvas because you might discover that it is really stringy and goopy and gross looking, right? Now, if you discover that it's really stringy and goopy, probably needs more water in it, okay? Now, let me follow my own advice here and do a test flick, and then I'll show you guys how to do the flick. All right, I'm looking pretty good. So here's what you want to do to flick the paint, guys. All you need to do is hold your brush up in front of where you want stars to be. All you got to do is reach over here with your other hand, pull the bristles back, and let them flick forward on their own, right? So we're not going to, be doing this. You don't have to tap it or any of that stuff. Just pull the bristles back, let them flick forward, and you should end up with 100 million little stars. Now, guys, don't worry. If you end up having a few like little runny spots, and you'll notice I have a few right down here in my lower corner. Guys, if you have a few little runny spots, just take a paper towel, maybe a damp paper towel, and just dab up the little runny spots, right? All right. Now, guys, I told you I had another method in case you didn't feel like flinging paint. So again, like if you're at home and you're on your dining room table and you don't want to flick paint all over grandma's dining room table, I've got another method for you. And guys, I might recommend doing this method even if you did fling paint, because this will give you brighter stars and you have a little more control over them, right? So this other method you can do, I would say to pull out your little brush for this one. And then what you can do is you can actually turn the brush around so that you're using the back of the handle, right? And you can just dip the handle in a little bit of white paint, and then you can come up here and you can just dab in little individual bright stars just wherever you want them. All right. Now, guys, I'm going to say one last thing about these bright stars. Be careful that you're not putting your bright stars in all equidistant from one another, right? Because then they look like polka dots. So you don't want polka dots. So I think it looks a little more natural if you just add them in like little clusters, like little groupings of stars tend to look a little more natural. Now, guys, there's one other little thing, and I noticed a lot of you guys have beat me to it. You'll notice up there on the master, there's like one little shooting star, right? And that shooting star, it's really easy to put up there. It's also really easy to goof, right? So I might encourage you to do like a little practice shooting star on your paper plate or something, just to make sure you kind of get the hang of how to get it on there. But guys, it's actually really easy to do. And you can do it with the wooden handle of your brush. All you got to do is come over here and dab in a little star, and then you just have to like do a quick flick of the wrist to pull a little tail out of it, right? So again, it's easy to goof, but it's easy to do. If you goof it, just get a damp paper towel, wipe it off, and try again. All right, guys. Everybody feeling pretty warm and fuzzy about their stars and sky and everything? Yeah? All right, good. If you're still working, again, take your time, guys. But, we're kind of doing pretty good on time. And I would like to get one more step in here before we take a little break. I'd like to get our moon kind of painted in there a little bit, right? So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and start talking about how we do our moon. And we're going to do this in 2 steps, and it's going to be, again, kind of rapid fire because we don't want to give our moon, our base color, a lot of time to dry before we start adding craters and all that fun stuff into our moon. So once you guys are ready, go ahead and rinse out your big brush again. Rinse it out and dry it off. And we are going to start pretty easily by just painting our moon white, right? Now, I know it seems a little counterintuitive because we're painting white canvas white, but we're giving ourselves a nice base layer to start blending color into. And this is our nice opportunity to kind of sharpen up the edges of our moon, you know, because we're kind of loose around those edges, probably brushed into the moon a little bit. So go ahead and start painting in your moon, and it's okay to paint right over the edge of your color, particularly if you've got that really rough, like crenellated edge left over from your template. You can paint right over the edge of that moon. And guys, if that big old bristle brush is not giving you a really nice line, you can always use your little brush to get a really tight line right around the edge of your moon, and then just use that big old bristle brush to fill in the rest of it. So do whatever you got to do here, guys, but get your moon drawn in, you know, sharpen up the edge of it a little bit and give yourself a nice kind of base layer of white. And I'm going to give you a minute or two to work on that, but we're pretty quickly going to try to get into adding the craters and stuff because we don't want to give that paint a lot of time to get set up. All right, guys. Now, if you're still getting that base layer on your moon, take your time. We got plenty of it. But I'm going to go ahead and start talking about some of the techniques that we can use to start adding some of the like texture and little craters and all that sort of stuff into the surface of our moon, right? Now, I'm going to go over a couple of different techniques you guys can use for this. And, you know, you can kind of cherry pick them. You can do the ones you like or use all of them. So let me show you a couple of techniques we can do here. Now, the first thing that we want to do is actually mix up a little bit of a custom color for the shadows on our moon. And we want a very light gray for this. So what I would suggest everybody do is take your big brush and, you know, on your mixing tray, we're going to mix a little bit of a color. So I would say take your big brush and just come over here and grab, just use that brush like a spoon and just pick up a little dollop of white, right? And then come over here and just scrape that little dollop of white off onto your mixing tray. Again, you don't need very much of it. What's that? I would encourage you to dry it off first, yes. Now, once you've got that little dollop of white, you just need the tiniest little touch of black, guys. So just barely come over here, just barely dip the very tip of your brush in a little bit of black. You don't need much at all. And you'll be surprised how much this black will stain this white. So come over here and brush a little bit of black in there. And we're looking for a light gray. It should just be noticeably darker than your paper plate itself, right? So you can kind of see what mine looks like here. In fact, mine is maybe even a little bit light. Like I think I might like mine to be just a hair darker. So I'm just gonna add another teeny little touch of black in here to make it a little bit darker. There we go. Still a light gray, but again, it's noticeably darker than my paper plate. And again, guys, if yours is a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, it's no big deal. If you find you went too dark with it, just add another scoop of white in there to lighten it up. Now, once you have your gray mixed up and you're ready to start adding some texture into your moon, I'll show you the first technique here, guys. The first technique is called stippling. And if you're not familiar, yeah, exactly. Stippling is just using your brush like a stamp and just tapping color in there. Now, guys, I think you get a better texture if you don't have a lot of paint on your brush for this. So you might just kind of wipe off the excess paint off of your brush before you start stippling. And then I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to start tapping some little bits of color into the surface of my moon. There we go. Now you guys at home might have kind of a hard time seeing this. I don't know, because my color is very, very light. It's just barely darker than the white that's on there. Now, guys, if you're at home and you can't see that, let us know, and I can make it a little bit darker if I need to. Now, guys, as you're adding texture in here, one thing I really like to say, when you're adding texture into your moon, think about adding your texture in patches of texture, right? We don't want to make the whole moon uniformly textured, right? Or it tends to look like a bowling ball or something, right? So I would say add your bits of texture in little patches, and that tends to look a little bit more how the moon actually looks. Now, one other thing before I move on to the next little texture here is if you feel like your texture is a little too dark, or maybe you just want to rein it in a little bit, or maybe you just want a little bit more variety in your texture, guys, you can always just reach over and get yourself a little bit of white and start adding a little bit of white back in to the texture, right? And that will kind of create all these varieties of gray in there. So it's okay to go back with a little bit of white and just break up your texture a little bit more, just add a little extra layer of dimension in there. Okay, looks like everybody's doing really, really well with that. So I tell you what, guys, I'm going to show you a couple of other little options that you can do if you want to. I think they're really nice little options that make really good moon texture and little craters and things, right? Now there's two of them that I'm going to show you. The first one is really good for making little craters kind of along the edge of your moon that are, like little craters that are kind of disappearing around the side of the moon. You can take your little brush out for this, and you can just get a little bit of that gray that you mixed up earlier on your little brush. And you can come out here around the edges of your moon, and you can just brush little individual brush strokes, and they should follow the contour of your moon. And these little individual brush strokes do start to look a lot like little, craters that are kind of, around the edge of the moon. They're kind of disappearing over the horizon of the moon. There we go. Now again, you want to kind of keep those around the edge, but if you want to have some craters that are much more visible kind of in the middle of your moon, there's another technique we can use for that. And this one's my favorite, right? Because I love the opportunity to finger paint. So I'm just going to put my little brush away, and I'm actually just going to pull out the tip of my finger, right? And I'm just going to get a little bit of gray on the tip of my finger. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to swirl in some little round craters on my moon, right? Now, guys, don't forget that during all of these techniques, you can always go back and get a little bit of white and brush some extra white in there to get a little more variety in these textures. And guys, I'll remind you, if this is eating your lunch, if it's giving you a hard time, guys, I'm here for you. Let me know. I didn't mention it at the top of class, but Kylie over there is one of the most skillful painters you'll ever meet. So if you don't love me, just grab up her and she'll be happy to come help you guys out. And guys, if you're at home and you're having trouble, ask us questions in the chat box, and Zach will relay those to me, and he'll either answer you or I'll answer you directly. So let us know, guys, if you're having any problems. We're here to help you out. All right, guys. Now, once you get caught up here and you're feeling pretty good about your moon and your stars and everything, I think that's a good time to take a little breather, right? So I would encourage you, once you get caught up here, to just put your brushes away and resist that urge to keep poking at it, because we do want it to dry a little bit during the break, right? So put your brushes away, step away from it, take a lap around the room, see how everybody's doing, get another beverage, get some fresh air, whatever you guys want to do. And guys, we'll get started again here in about 10 or 12 minutes or so. So take a little breather, definitely step away from it for a minute, and we'll get started again here in about 10 or 12 minutes. All right, hey guys, I think we're about ready to go ahead and get into the next little bit here. Is everybody having a good time so far? Oh, this thing, oh man, I know I sounded funny. Here we go. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear everybody's having a good time. I am too. Let's go ahead and get into our next step. The next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to move kind of into our foreground a little bit, and we're going to start painting our trees back there on the other side of our little lake here. And so for this step, I would definitely recommend using your small brush. So go ahead and pull that small brush out, and we're actually just going to use black paint for the trees. And the trees, so before we actually start doing the trees, let's go ahead and just draw ourselves in a horizon line, right? So just take your little brush, get a little bit of black paint on there, and just draw yourself in a horizon line. And guys, you probably already have one, you know, where your water texture kind of starts, right? And it doesn't matter exactly where your horizon line is. You just want it to be below your moon. So I'm going to start right down here, right at the base of my moon, and I'm just going to pull a line all the way across my canvas. And guys, don't worry if your line is a little bit wobbly or a little wonky or whatever, because we're going to end up painting over it before we're done, right? It's just a guideline for us. Now, once you have that line in there, we're going to want to start adding some trees. And guys, these trees are a lot easier than they look, right? I'm going to show you how to do them. And before I do, I like to say that there's no particular number of trees that you need to have, and they don't need to be any particular height or anything like that. As long as you have discernible points on the tops of your trees, they will look like trees and not like a row of bushes or hedges or whatever, right? So let's go ahead and let's just throw a tree on here. And I like, you know, the thing they did on the master there is they made the trees a little bit smaller in the center, and they kind of get taller out towards the edge. And I think, you know, one, they probably did that not to obscure the moon, because we put a lot of work into our moon, but also that's kind of like an old artist trick that creates a sense of a little bit of space, you know, like just adds a little bit of dimension in there. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna paint in our first tree. And they're all done the same way. And here's how we do them. They're real easy, guys. First, what you want to do is take your brush and you just want to draw essentially the trunk, just a line, right? So I'm just going to come over here wherever I want a tree, and I'm just going to pull a little line up, however tall I think I want that tree to be, right? And you can see this one I made, it's maybe like 4 fingers tall or so. Again, not that it really matters, you know, it's just a line. Now, I tell you what, you know, maybe just so everybody can see this a little bit better, before I draw in the rest of that tree, I tell you what, I'm going to flip my canvas over and I'm going to draw one great big tree on the back. That way you guys can really get a sense for what these trees look like, because I know they're going to be pretty small, especially if you're in the back of the room, right? So for just right now, I'm just going to grab out my big brush just to kind of show you guys how we like to do these trees. So let's say that's our ground line, and I drew in a line for the trunk, right? Paint doesn't stick very well to the back of the canvas, as you can see. So now all we got to do, we're going to do some more stippling, right? Just like we did on the surface of our moon, but this time we're going to do it with black. And guys, I'm going to start right up at the top. I'm just going to tap a few little taps of color up at the top. I'm still trying to keep it kind of narrow, kind of pointy at the very top. And guys, as I work my way down my tree, I'm still just doing lots of stippling, just, you know, tapping the end of my brush on the canvas, but I'm sort of tapping it in like a zigzag kind of pattern. And that zigzag pattern kind of gives us this sense of like individual branches in that tree. And then you just want to make those zigzag patterns get a little bit wider and a little bit wider until you make it all the way down to the ground, right? Okay, so that's one gigantic example of one tree. You'll have a little bit better control with your little brush than I had with my big brush on the back here. All right, so let's do that again. I'm just gonna take my little brush. I'm gonna get a little bit of black paint. I'm gonna come up here to the very top of my little tree. I'm just gonna tap a few little tiny taps right at the top. Again, I'm trying to keep the top of my tree very pointy. You know, I don't want it to be like real round and bushy looking. And then I'm just gonna continue tapping, working my way down in kind of a zigzag pattern. Now guys, one thing that I think is kind of important here is you want to leave a little bit of space. Like you don't wanna make a solid black triangle. You wanna see some of the background colors kind of shining through your tree. So let me get one tree on here just so you can get a sense of what I mean by that. And I'll bring this a little bit closer so everybody can see it. There we go. All right. Bear with me, folks at home. I'll bring this right back, I promise. All right, guys, so take a closer look. I think you can see that I left lots of little visible gaps in my tree, you know, where you can see the background colors kind of shining through there. We don't need to create a big solid black mass. There we go. Looks like you guys are all getting it. Okay. Now, guys, once you are kind of getting the hang of it, and it looks like you guys all are, you can go ahead and just start populating your painting with as many or as few trees as you would like. Again, you can make them any height that you want. If you want to make them slowly get taller towards the edge of the canvas, that's a nice little trick. And the last thing I like to say is if you paint in your tree, one of the problems that can happen is you can make your tree a little too perfect, right? If you paint it in there and it is a perfect zigzag, or it has, you know, the exact, like just perfectly spaced branches, it tends to look a little weird, right? So if you're looking at your tree and you feel like something's a little weird about it, it's probably a little too perfect. So if it's a little too perfect, just fudge it a little bit, you know, just add an extra branch here or there so it's not quite so perfect. All right, guys. So again, I'm gonna turn up the music. I'm gonna let you guys go to town here, paint as many or as few trees as you'd like. They can be whatever height you want them to be. And again, guys, if this is giving you a real hard way to go, let me know. Folks at home, let Zach know in the comments. We're here to help. a bit of time left. But I'm going to go ahead and give you guys your next step because it looks like most everybody's about ready for it. And the next thing we want to do is to paint the reflections of the trees down here in our water, right? Now, there's something I like to say about this. If you look at the master, you can see how they did it. And certainly the official instructions of the painting are to just paint the mirror image of those trees, right? And in fact, if it makes it easier, you can even flip your canvas over and just repaint those trees, right? However, we've already put a little bit of work down here into our water, trying to get that water texture, right? That glassy surface texture of the water. And we're even going to do other things before we're done to kind of reinforce that surface texture of the water. And if we stipple the trees in there, like we did up on top, there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect between the texture of the trees and the texture of the water reflecting the trees, right? So again, guys, if you want to do a mirror image of those trees, stippling them in there like you did before, that's the official instruction of this painting. But I want to give you guys an option that I think looks a little bit better and keeps that surface texture of the water, kind of reinforces that. So what I'm going to do is pull out my little brush. So I'm still using my little brush. I'm still using black paint. And here's what I like to do. Zach, I don't know if you can zoom in on this for the folks at home. I think it might be helpful if they could see this a little bit closer. So down here, and again, if it helps, you can flip your canvas over if you want to. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to paint rough just kind of a general mirror image of the shape of the trees above. But instead of stippling them in there, I'm going to paint them in little short horizontal brush strokes, and that will kind of reinforce that surface texture of the water. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to come in here. So I'm just going to start with this tree right here. And I'm just going to come down here into my water, and I'm just going to paint a bunch of little horizontal brush strokes, and they can overlap each other and not, you know, just kind of whatever here, just a bunch of loose horizontal brush strokes, just roughly mimicking the shape of the trees above. Sorry guys, again, I know it's kind of hard to see through me over there. Okay, now that said, I'm going to do another one of these here, and then I'm going to walk this around the room just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So folks at home, just bear with me for a second. I will bring this right back. There we go, guys. So you can get a look at it there. So again, guys, do it how you like. If you want to stipple those trees in there, great. If you want to try to mimic that water texture by adding them in there in little horizontal brush strokes, also great. And again, if you want to flip your canvas upside down to make it a little easier on yourself, you can do that as well. Anything you guys want to do. All right, so that said, guys, I think I will go ahead and turn the music back up and let everybody go to town on these trees here. And again, guys, if it's giving you any problems, let us know. You know, if you're at home and you're having trouble with this, let us know in the chat. guys. We're really getting into the home stretch here tonight. We've really only got a couple of little steps left here. So if you're in the studio, I think we're going to go ahead and also call this last call at the bar. So if you guys want to get like a final round of beverages, guys, now is your opportunity to do that. Let Kylie know. And gosh, I am having the hardest time with words today. I don't know what it is. Then here in a couple of minutes, we'll kind of get into the home stretch and start talking about our last few steps. All right, guys. Now, I'm not quite getting into the next step just yet because the next thing we want to do, you know, we just painted all this black down here in our reflection. And the next thing we're going to do is paint, you can see there's a little bit of like a wash of white kind of on top of that black that makes it look a little glassier, a little softer. And we want to give that black a minute to get tacky at least. You know, it's okay if the black smears into the white a little bit, but we want it to get set up a little bit. So we're just going to stall for a couple of minutes to kind of let that black get set up. So guys, if you're still working on that black down there in the reflection, stop. Let it get tacky, let it set up for a few minutes before we get into this next step. So again, we're just going to stall for a minute and we'll get started again here in just a minute. Paint is tacky enough that we can start adding some wash on top of it. Now guys, if you feel like your paint is still super duper wet and you're afraid to like brush some wash on there, just give it another minute. And because you guys already know how to make the wash, we're actually going to make it the same way that we made the wash for our stars earlier in the painting, right? So go ahead and just pull your mixing tray back out and I would say go ahead and grab your big brush out for this. You could use your little brush if you wanted to, but I'm going to grab out my big brush. And again, I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush in a little bit of white. I don't need very much at all. And then scrape it off on your mixing tray. Set your big brush down the bottom of your cup, you know, shake out all that excess paint, get as much water as you can. And again, guys, I know that your water's super gross at this point. It's okay. It's not going to be a big deal, I promise. Now, you want it to be pretty soupy because, again, you want to be able to see through this pretty well, guys. And in fact, I would encourage you to even maybe like do just a little tester on something to make sure that you can, in fact, see through the paint. I tell you what, I'm just going to do one like right on the canvas. I'm just going to come over here right below my horizon line, and I'm just going to streak in a little bit of my white wash there. And, you know, I can see through it pretty well. In fact, I feel like mine is maybe a little bit whiter than I would like it to be, but I think it'll be okay. And then I'm just going to streak a little bit of that wash in on top of all my reflections. Now, again, guys, if you start to brush this on here and it is bright white, then you're going to want to add some more water to it, right? Now, again, this is one of those moments where there's like an official way to do the painting, and then I'm going to tell you to do something else. Again, the official instructions of the painting are to just paint the entire watery area white with this whitewash. I think it tends to look a little bit better if we just streak a little bit of this whitewash kind of near the horizon line and then let it stay colorful down at the bottom, you know, because if we add wash over the whole thing, then it's going to desaturate all this color. It's going to make it kind of gray, you know, and I think it tends to look a little bit better if we just have a little bit of that, like, you know, that wash kind of reflecting off the surface of the water at a distance, and then still nice and bright and colorful at the bottom. So do it however you guys would like. All right, guys, now no rush at all. But there's one more little thing you might want to do with your reflection down here, and that's to just add a few little touches of white, like a little bit of moonlight just glinting off the water. So let me show you. I'm going to take my little brush. I'm just going to get a little touch of white on my little brush. And then I'm just going to come in here And, you know, you can wait till your wash is dry, or, you know, the wash can still be a little bit wet. It's fine. And I'm just going to come in here, and again, just using little horizontal brush strokes, I'm just going to come in here and add a few little horizontal brush strokes right kind of along the distant edge of my water here. And just a few little well-placed streaks of white back here start to look a lot like little, you know, just little slivers of moonlight glinting off the water. And, you know, when it comes to this, probably less is going to be more. You know, don't need to go overboard on this. But I'm just going to add a few, just kind of all the way across, right near my horizon line. And I don't know, if you want to, I mean, you could have a few kind of starting to come down a little bit further. But again, I kind of think less is more when it comes to these. All right, guys, while you're working on that, I just thought I would let you know that last bit of instruction is actually the last bit of instruction that I have for you guys tonight. You know, if you got a free hand, guys, give yourselves a hand. You did a great job tonight. And and this painting is, it's no joke. You guys have done really well in here tonight. So that said, guys, take your time, get the finishing touches on there. If you need a little bit of help just getting it over the finish line, guys, let me know. I'm here for you. If you need any advice at home, guys, let us know in the chat box. We're happy to help you guys out. And then, guys, here in a few minutes, if you guys wouldn't mind humoring me, I would love to get like a class photo at the end of it. And, you know, historically, we get everybody up on the stage at the end of class. But, you know, since there is like a pandemic going around, I think what we'll do instead tonight is I'll just take photos of you guys from here. And we'll do that here in just a couple of minutes, guys. So take your time, get your finishing touches on there. Let us know if you need anything. And then here in a couple of minutes, we'll do that group photo. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna go ahead and take our class photos tonight. Now, guys, if you're at home, please, please do us the favor and the courtesy of taking a selfie with your painting and, you know, tagging us on Facebook, because that's the only thing that's a bummer about doing the classes at home is I don't get to see the work you guys did tonight. So thank you so much for coming and palling around with me tonight. I had a great time. I hope you did too. And again, guys, if you're at home, thank you so much for joining us. Please take a selfie, tag us on Facebook. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. Have a great night. Be safe.